So this is just like a really short snippet. I'm just sort of recording my daily life commuting back home, right? So here in KL, like I love driving and all, but the jams are terrible. My Waze says it'll take me 36 minutes to get home. I'm trying to beat that time, but like how can I beat that time when there are people who are like braking every second? Yeah. So I feel like commute is a big part of being Malaysian. You're always on the road, whether you're commuting via the train, you gotta wait for your train, either you're driving. But the car culture, the car scene here is really car heavy. It's very car reliant. Like, take something like Singapore, take something like Hong Kong. I can imagine living in those places because their main form of transport would be their um, the trains, right? The transit system. And I think it's good that they have a heavy reliance on this transit system. I think that all countries should strive to have like a very livable, um, walkable city filled with all these sort of public transports. But like Malaysia's still on the progress. Yeah, still progressing towards being like a transit, like a tier transit, right? So like I've been to Japan. I love the way Japan's handling their transit system. I like how informative, how easy it is to use. Like with Google Maps in Japan, I can get to anywhere I want. Input the places and stuff like that. But Malaysia, it's not as walkable. We're sort of big. Our train stations are far away. Sometimes you would have to sit like on the train to like this certain station, then you need to walk another 20 minutes or even 30 minutes just to get to your destination, because there's not like fixed bus stations or even just like train stations everywhere. And I in a way, I'm sort of glad we don't have it as bad as Singapore, because I mean, yeah, the state here is pretty bad. Your car, you want to buy a car, you're paying like four times the purchase price. We have like a 400% tax rate for imports, right? Because we want to protect the local market. But I feel like this, in a way, is bad in a sense where it's good because we're still able to buy a lot of cars, right? As compared to somewhere like Singapore, we don't need like a lot of different licenses just to be able to own a car. But I feel like it's bad in the sense where, because we were so focused on protecting our own market, it doesn't really let them have a lot of R&D and improve on their product. Like think of like a Myvi, right? I'm in a Myvi. The Myvi is essentially the same car as it was what 20 years back, right? As compared to like when you have to compete with international markets, you're gonna improve, right? The same case here with Astro. So for those of you guys who are not informed, Astro is this sort of platform where you're able to watch cable TV, and Astro is the biggest monopoly. I mean, it was the biggest monopoly, right? Before everything like Netflix, etc. But rather than really developing or doing R&D, etc., they were comfortable with where they were. They started charging higher prices. Oh, you want to watch a sports channel, you need to pay more for the whatnot. And slowly, with the introduction of like Netflix and other streaming platforms, they were like, it's fine. They were like, it's fine. No need to R&D. There's still gonna be tons of people who are using and supporting us, and yeah, that held true for the first few years. But eventually, it phased out. A lot of people I know have these sort of like illegal TV boxes, and yeah, I mean, like, you get to watch your shows. You don't need like a proper account, and a lot of these are like Chinese firmware manufactured stuff. So they're not the best, but it's way better than what Astro offers. Same goes with Netflix. Even just Netflix is like a really good option. Astro was charging people 80 per month just to stay at your home, give you your HD television, but they stopped R&Ding, and you know why? It's because the government protected them a lot. Rather than having that competitiveness, they were sheltered, and as a result, their end product today is not even comparable to what Netflix was like 10 years back, right? I mean, sure, it still has some perks. People do still watch Astro for sports stuff, but it shrunk. How did a local monopoly lose? It was too sheltered. Look, I can't say the same for a lot of other stuff, right? I'm sure oil and gas and even electricity is doing pretty well, although it's monopoly. But those are like, essentials. No, you don't need a lot of R&D to improve your essentials. People still need them. They're essential for a reason. But I feel like the same issue is occurring right now with with our local cars, our Proton, our Perodora. Both local cars, both stuck with whatever it is they're doing. Like even for like the Proton side or Perodora, one of them got bought over by a Chinese company. They're just rebadging the car to sell in the local markets. Even with the current news, right? Recently, I saw that the governments increased the minimum selling price for Chinese EV vehicles. And why is that? I feel like some people say, oh yeah, the import market will take a hit. Some people say that, yeah, yeah, they're trying to protect local options. But the thing is, these EV options, like I hate EV, as a guy, I hate EV, but like these local options can't even compare to what they have in China, right? Or even other countries, because EV is getting cheaper. But if we're still pricing them out, people rely more on oil and gas. They'll be less reliant. There'll be no reasons to perform R&D in a sense where we create more like electric farms to fuel the electric car market, right? But in a way, I feel like EV's important. Like as much as I hate EV, I hate out driving it, I hate the entire experience, but it needs to be there. There needs to be improvements in any market, right? You notice how with even with like global like supercar or even global car markets, the introduction of EV, yeah, terrible. But in few good things about it is that local cars or even just like other car companies, they're shifting back towards like, hey, this is a very good MPG sort of car. It's very economical. The gas tank is really worth it. You get a lot of miles from it, and I think that by all means, these sort of R&D is good. In competition to drive people forward. Like take Malaysia, the KFC market, not the KFC shit, the nasi lemak market. Nasi lemak is like coconut rice, not coconut, but coconut milk rice, santan, with like sambal, which is like chili, peanuts, anchovies, eggs, timun. What's timun? Cucumber. Yeah, it's a very simple meal, but it has a lot of competitors, right? You got your Village Park, you got your Burung Hantu, you got all your different nasi lemaks, and it's always in a competition. They always want to make something nicer, That's what's lacking for the car market locally. I mean, that's the thing too, right? I mean that I think certain Malaysian cars are done well. The S70, yes, it has a market for it. The Myvi, affordable car market, it has its spot. But if it were competing with other like cheap cars in the market, it will be forced to R&D even more. It will be forced to improve. Like, look, I'm getting a Swift. The Swift, 100 grand in Malaysia for like an import, 130 for a new vehicle. But like, if the Swift was priced how it was priced in the Japanese domestic market, it'll be a real competitor for like the Myvi. It'll be a real competitor for the local cars. But no, that's not the case here, right? With the local cars, they feel safe. The local car manufacturers, they feel safe. They feel like, oh, there's no need for me to improve more than I have, because my car's still going to be cheaper, and more people opt to get my car. And they're right. They're right. But that's why you don't really feel the same sort of competitiveness that you see in the older Malaysian cars. The Evo, and not really the Evo, but I mean like the Saga, the Perdana, the Putra, lovely cars. They had to fight for a place in the international market. They are indeed. We sent our car to like Mount Everest or the North Pole. I forgot which one was it, but it was in the news. Everything, we worked hard, but then the protection of like don't get me wrong, I think we should protect local markets, but having them lose that incentive to do R&D, I feel that's what's worrying me, right? Like back then, people could gloat, hey, I have a Proton, I have a Saga, I have a Perdana, I have a Satra Evo. They could, and we were proud of our local cars, but it's come to a point where like yeah, tons of Malaysians still buy these cars because they're affordable. Where else could you get a mini SUV, the X50? Where else could you get a S70 for such a cheap price? It's only because the market's protected. But yeah, I mean, that's just my opinion. Another thing about cars that I really dislike is I don't like the whole trend with fat cars. Like, yeah, I get it. You want to make cars, you need to follow the different restrictions. You need to be compliant with like your greenhouse gases, with like your different emission laws, etc. And I get why it's needed. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, it's all of these are things that we need in order to have like a greener earth. Yeah, I get it. But is there a reason why our cars need to be fat? I love a sedan, I love a hatchback, I love all the tiny cars, all the fast cars. I just want cars to look like sports cars again. The 90s, you have your Prelude, you have your GTR, you had tons of options. You have tons of sexy looking sports cars, but where has that gone? Closest thing you could buy, you'll still be spending a fortune, is the Civic. You'll still be spending a fortune on the Civic. You'll still be, and like, let's not even talk about the GTR, right? You need to spend a fortune on like a new BM. Yeah, all these. What happened to affordable sports cars? Right? I mean, like, look, affordability is like, I understand, right? It's what's the word? It's subjective. Yeah. One car that's affordable to someone may not be affordable to somebody else. Yeah, but what if we had affordable sports cars? What if we had modern cars, new cars with retro stylings, with that race car stylings, with the tails, with aggressive stances? What happened to all that? Is our attempt at being compliant reducing the imagination of all these car manufacturers? I don't know, right? I can't give you an answer. I don't work at these sort of stuff. I'm working in tech, right? So different, but like, what happened to all the fun cars? And yeah, you might argue, yeah, but sport's pretty cheap, But like a Golf is pretty cheap. The Golf R, etc. is pretty cheap compared to like whatnot. But think about it. These cars are like the local Myvis of other countries, but they have a need to be competitive. Locally, I haven't seen a car that I really fancied. There has not been a recent Malaysian produced car that made me go like, wow, that I want that. That looks aggressive. That looks really. That's a statement right there. No, it's all just been. It's played safe. Mini SUV, fat cars. I'm sure. Yeah, you have family. Yeah, makes sense. But sometimes form over function does matter as well. you want to tell. Imagine you have your kids in the future and they're like, Daddy, what car did you drive in the past? And then you tell, oh, I drove a mini SUV. No, like if my parents now told me like, hey, I used to have a GTR. I used to race with my friends in my Satria. Oh, I used to have an EK9. I would be thrilled. But the car designs now, they just really lack soul. In an attempt to cater to the emission regulations, it's just upset over upset, right? Ferrari's case, the OG guy, Enzo Enzo Ferrari only wanted to make sports cars. What have they done, right? They're making SUVs now. I mean, old news, right? But like, what happened, man? What happened? It's just really upsetting to know that I'll grow up, right? My cars won't be as iconic, right? Compared to the 90s. And I'm sure a lot of people would be like, hey, yeah, get a project car, get an old car, but it's not realistic too. I mean, like, yeah, I can get parts, but I can't afford it. You know, I'm tech salary. As of now, I can't afford a lot of these things, so I need to be reasonable with my vehicular decisions as well, right? But that's the thing. Cars could be way much more fun. I'm telling you, man. Like as a kid, you think about it. Don't don't think about anything else. Imagine yourself as a kid, right? You're sitting there. You have this poster of a Porsche 911, of the 964, or even like a GTR, Paul Walker's GTR. You have Paul Walker's GTR. You got the Need for Speed, the E46. You had a poster of a car. You had Hot Wheels that looked like fast cars, you know, and you had all those idolizing it. You're like, hey, I want to get in when I grow up. I want to have a sports car when I grow up. And then you spend your life during your teenage years looking at Facebook Marketplace or whatnot, like, damn, I want this car. I want this car so bad. Then comes to a point where you're finally able to make money. And then that goal feels out of reach, you know? But you dreamt. What's important is you dreamt. You dreamt about owning one. You know, you dreamt about being one. You dreamt about being the coolest kid in school. Or even in the university with this car. You just wanted a piece of this car, right? But think of the kids now, you know? You think they I mean, yeah, they'll still idolize our parents' cars. But you think they can say the same about our current cars? You think little Timmy, who's 4 years old, tells his dad, Dad, I wanna own a Tesla when I grow up. I want a Tesla. I want a Cybertruck. I want an X70 when I... No, they don't. And I think, okay, in a way, if you want like a whole generation that's not really into cars, yeah, you got it the right way, you know? Like, yeah, teleportation in the future, there's no need for cars, but like, it's just sad, you know? Just sad to think that the next generation would not be able to see the stuff that we saw. You know, it's just sad to think that, yeah, like me, I always wanted like a shit box, you know? But to the kids, why do you want such an old shit box, you know? But to me, it makes sense. You watch your Fast and Furious, you watch your Need for Speed, you played your stupid Need for Speed Shift on the iPod, you played Asphalt, you know, you see all these amazing cars. But like, currently, the car market stands as it is, right? All cars look the same. You got your mini SUV, fat car, drives decently well. But nothing special, you know, nothing's really special for the car market now. And it's going to continue to be that way unless we have geniuses or we have people who are interested in making a difference. You know, the people at like let's say Liberty Walk and Rocket Bunny, they know what they want in their car. They want to tune, they want to have their own body. You got your Akira Nakai RWB. I mean, like, controversial. I've either met people who loved it or people who hated it, right? Like, but I mean, like, respect lah, respect for you guys, everybody, for having their own opinions, but they know what they want in a car and they'll make it happen. And I hope that the next generation of tuners, of like body kit designers, of like car culture or car companies or tuners do that, you know, make your cars your own again, right? This is like such a rant, but look, I don't know too much about cars, right? I can't name every model. I can't tell you like, hey, yeah, this is the blah blah blah, this is the engine, makes how many horses, it's naturally aspirated, whatnot. I don't remember all the details. I know what cars I like. That's good enough for me. Can we say the same about the future generations? I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. It's too soon to say, right? But I think in order for us to preserve our culture, in order for us as a species to, you know, have a deep understanding, love for all the histories that cars have brought us, we need shit boxes. You know, a petition that Peroda have brought up, make shit boxes for us. Maybe that's just what we need. Maybe that's just what we should aim towards. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know, right? Coming from like a 24-year-old guy, I barely know my cars. I know the cars I like. I love the NSX. Grew up loving the NSX. I love the GTR. I love the Supra. I mean, sounds basic. I like one car, surprisingly, I like is the Clio, right? The Abarth. All these are amazing looking. Abarth is like, it's taste. Once you like the Abarth, it's really taste. But like, I know what I want in a car. I know what I want it to look like, and I'm willing to work for it. I'm willing to work hard to get the car that I want. But I don't think that'll be the same for future generations, and it makes me sad, you know? But you know, as time changes, oh, Dad, can I buy like a hoverboard? I want the one that blah 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 uses. I'm sure in the future there's always gonna be something for people to spend their money on. There's always gonna be consumption, and there's always gonna be something new to consume. But at the state we're going in, car culture would never return to what it was like when I was a child. But yeah, it's something to think through. You may agree or disagree with me, but I agree with myself. And like I said, this is sort of like a digital diary. And I do believe that you know, people who, like Malaysia, we have Retro Havoc, right? There's still people who know what they want in their car. There's still people who know what they want their car to look like. I think that's good enough. And hopefully these people influence enough of the masses such that in the future we'll still be able to see cool looking cars. But yeah, that's it from me today. Glad to just talk about my opinion. But yeah, stay tuned for more. See you. Bye bye.